Let's go to this conversation now as the energy crisis continues. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has reached out to Trade Union Solidarity to provide a list of people with the required technical skills to assist. Eskom has previously said that there's a skills crunch and it now is trying to fill these particular gaps. Now, the union has previously offered to assist government in this particular regard. Is this a solution, though, that we've been waiting for as the country when it comes to resolving the crisis at hand? Let's then speak to Solidarity CEO Dr Dirk Hermann, who joins us now just to look at this and more. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about the skills set that this minister is asking for.
Well, the ministers ask for actually all kinds of skills within the technical and engineering sphere. And we've asked what kind of skills. He wrote quite comprehensively in his letter what kind of skills do Eskom need. Now, this actually comes already from 2019. In 2019, the minister also did a call on all South Africans who has the necessary skills to come and help Eskom. And then after that, we had a campaign asking ordinary South Africans to raise their hands and say that here we are, we want to help. And we were quite amazed. 705 people said that we will help. That was quite positive, but nothing happened in 2019 with that. The fact of the matter is, I think Eskom is now critically ill in the ICU, so it's more important now than 2019. So in May this year, the minister also said that there's a technical skills crisis in Eskom, and then we followed that up and we wrote to the minister and said that we are willing to help. He came back and asked us to provide him with a list of skills, and he said we must do that on an urgent basis.
Now, Dr. Hermann, when we then look at, what you've just spoken about, it's not the first time, as you say, we've seen this. How confident are you that we are going to see the needle move this time around?
I really hope so. The fact is that we don't have any options left anymore. If you are critical in an ICU, you don't have options. And this is the case now in Eskom. We must do this. There's a real shortage at this stage. And there's people out there with the skills, and there's people out there that's willing to do that. Eskom also developed a whole plan so that this can be implemented. So it's not new. It is something that is prepared for. And what they now need is warm bodies that can come and help. Of course, this is supplementary. This is not the solution, but what these people can do, they can help with skills, but very important, they can also transfer skills. So in the contracts that they will have with Eskom, there will be a training and a transfer element as well, so that we can make sure that this is not a short-term solution, but a longer-term solution as well.
And I was going to get to that point, because there have been concerns that, the morale of the staff is not really at its highest right now, and how you then phased in some of these individuals should this, get off the ground, is also going to be critical in order not to further erode this. And some have been suggesting, as you've now said, a mentorship kind of a role to ensure that it is not going to almost seem like you are bamboozling these individuals onto the current employees at Eskom. Is that a great concern for you as to how they might be received on the ground?
Yes, it's quite important that it must be done with the current employees. Of course, we have thousands of members in Eskom, and we know how sensitive this can be, and we know also about the low morale. But remember, the workers in Eskom at this stage, especially on the technical level, but actually all workers, are really overstretched. And one of the reasons are skill shortage. So the fact is thus that we have a situation here that people can come in, help, and bring relief. So this will stabilize Eskom, and that is for the good of the workers, but of course of Eskom, but more than that, it will be good for all workers in South Africa, because the rest of South Africa, of course, also need a stable Eskom. The fact is that the crisis that we have at this stage, I think Government is a big contributor to this specific crisis, but the crisis is not government's crisis alone anymore. That's all of us crisis, and therefore all of us must help to try to resolve this.
What about some of the concerns that, given the fact that Eskom comes from very difficult wage negotiations recently, and now you have these individuals who some of them have, the skills are so advanced that they were helping to build power stations in other countries, for example, the price tag that they may come with for Eskom, which may unsettle some of the unions?
The fact is that these specific workers will actually help, like I said, to stabilize Eskom, and that will be to the benefit of all the workers in Eskom, also the current employees of Eskom. The price tag is something that we can discuss, but this specific list that we have, a lot of these people said that we will even consider it to do this only for the country, even without payment. I'm not a big fan of no payment, just to bring in voluntaries. I think there must be a formal contract, there must be clear outsets, and there must be a form of remuneration, because we want to expect them to do certain things. But I think there's people that want to help are there to say, what can we do for the country?
And I'd like to go back to, these technical skills. I know you say that there's quite a long list of them, but some have expressed concern to say that, when Eskom talks about the skills shortage, there's one area that it may not be looking at and it's overlooking. And this is the issue around, the operators at power stations, because they're saying that these are, like the pilots, essentially the most critical, one of the most critical skills that is needed, and Eskom is in desperate need of it right now. Is this part of the pool of requests?
It's absolutely so. That is a thing that we must take into account. You are quite correct with the operators. One seeks sometimes the solutions up high. You say that there must be top specialists, top engineers. I think that's necessary as well, top management, etc. But the solution is much lower on power station level, with ordinary artisans, etc. And that is actually a big focus. The interesting thing is the list that we have, around about 30% of those on the list are engineers, and then around about 50% of those are ordinary specialized artisans. And that is the level actually where the crisis lies at this stage, and where we must seek for solutions.
And I'd like to get your thoughts on this one. I mean, Eskom, really coming under fire for a proposal of a new power tariff, the bid that, on-grid solar users pay just short of 1,000 rand per month if they don't use electricity as some kind of a backup. What were your thoughts when you saw this proposal?
That's absurd. That simply can't work. Solidarity already indicated that if NASA go ahead with this, then we will take NASA and Eskom report on that, because it's irrational and therefore also illegal. The fact of the matter is, what we need to support Eskom at this stage is is small-scale power producers on a very large scale. And so we must actually stimulate solar. We must stimulate people to generate own electricity. And at this stage, they propose a tariff structure that actually punishes them. Now, that is absurd. That is absolutely against the spirit towards which we must move at this stage. So the fact is that it's absurd, it's not acceptable, and I think it must be tested in court if they go through to that. With that, although I believe that it can't go through because of the absurdity of that.
Dr. Hermann, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Do appreciate it. That was Solidarity CEO Dr. Dirk Hermann.